Okay, this video is going to look at Mrs. GREN, MRS GREN, which is a phrase that helps us to learn 7 important characteristics. Those characteristics are what all life on the planet show. It might be obvious to us that, or we might think it's obvious that, something's alive or not, but it's not always the case. For instance, maybe we say something moves around, it's living. Well, a car moves around. It needs nutrients as well, like a lot of living things. What about something like a virus? A virus is reproduces, so is it living or isn't it? Crystals grow and expand, so are they living? So what tells us if something is living or not? Well, all living things, all living organisms share these 7 characteristics, and we'll have a look at them. First one, M. M stands for movement. All living things move. Doesn't mean they move in large amounts. They might turn towards light, or they might move during growth, but we all need to move. Animals move much faster than fungi or plants, but as a plant spreads out its branches, as it turns its light to the leaves, it is moving. Respiration. Respiration I mentioned in the last video, the first video, when I said it was a chemical reaction that produces energy, and all organisms need energy, so we all carry out respiration. There are simpler forms of it, but it's very similar in nearly every organism. It's one of the things that, or ideas, bits of evidence that people use to prove that we develop from simpler organisms, whether you believe in that or not. But we all produce our energy through the chemical reaction of respiration. Sensitivity. Sensitivity is our ability to detect things and then respond to it. And there's no organism that can't do that. As mammals, we've got and animals, we've got a very complicated system of having a brain, a spine, which allows us to work things out using our senses. But plants have senses too. They use special chemicals that will move towards or away from the light and help the plant to respond in the right way. Something as simple as a bacteria is able to detect the chemicals around it, and a bacteria is a single-celled little organism, but they detect the chemicals around it and they can move away or towards them. Growth. All things need to grow. Might not be for the whole of its life, but some point the organisms are going to need to grow, and really as well, even ones that are fully grown do need to repair damaged tissues and maintain, so they need to produce new cells. The growth can be in large amounts, it can be in small amounts. For instance, bacteria or amoeba, which are a type of organism called a protoctista, they are single cell, just one little building block, and they reproduce by dividing in 2. However, once they divide in 2, they're smaller, so they have to regrow, only to the size of a single cell, and bacterial cells are extremely small, but they are growing. Reproduction. All organisms continue the species and produce new organisms. You might think of reproduction as producing a baby or an egg, but it could be something as simple as a bacteria cell dividing in 2, or a yeast cell, which is a little single-celled fungus, budding off from another one. So reproduction is a very important factor, because without it, the species would just stop existing. Excretion. Now, excretion is a fancy word for removal of waste products. It's a little different to just removing any waste products. They have to be waste products that we've produced. So feces isn't really included in it, because, believe it or not, it's exactly the same as when it came in. It's just had a couple of things added to it. But things like urea, which is in your urine, has been produced from protein in your diet. You turn the protein into urea and then you urinate to excrete it. Other organisms excrete by simply passing molecules through their cell membrane, but all organisms need to get rid of waste, which would otherwise be toxic in their bodies and build up. Nutrition. Essentially, fancy word for food. It might be something as simple as absorbing nutrients from around them, or we might have complex systems like ourselves where we have to eat things, digest them and break them down, and then absorb them, but we all need nutrients. So have a look at this, see if you can work out the missing words, and which are all at the bottom, and then once you're done, click the video and see what the answers are. So all organisms need to something because they need to get nutrients or run away from something. The food that they get will be used to make energy in a process called. The characteristics of allows organisms to detect the conditions around them, such as light, and all organisms are all organisms also need to, some in very small amounts, and some in very large amounts. Something is also very important as it allows the species to survive. Bacteria, something to do this, but others bud, create seeds and fruit, produce eggs, or create live young. To get rid of the we have produced, we carry out something. This waste will originally have come from. So when you're ready, just unpause. And there are your answers.